I'd love to give a chance to our next founder. Thank you so much, Toby. We have Farhan up next with Tokenopoly.
Thanks a lot. Hello, everyone. Good morning, both on the East Coast and the West Coast. And if you're joining in from other places in the world, good afternoon or good evening to you. My name is Farhan Memon. I'm the co-founder of Tokenopoly, and I'll just give me a moment for a second to share my screen. So hopefully you can all see my screen. I'll put it into full mode. Most recently, I was at MasterCard, where I was a product manager leading a portfolio of crypto and AI products focused on the financial crime space. But over the past 18 months, with the company's permission, I was working on putting together Tokenopoly as a personal project. And as a part of that, I put together a team of Web3 and marketing experts who've helped me build the product and are now helping me to launch and scale the product. Essentially, at Tokenopoly, we're focused on making real estate wealth accessible and attainable for everyone. If you think about real estate, it's really the ultimate wealth creator. Most people sort of buy into the American dream by getting a starter home and then having that asset grow over time. But if for some reason you're not able to buy that home, basically you're locked out of that wealth creation cycle. And of course, today we have home prices that are just going through the roof. In fact, there was an article in the New York Times yesterday stating that one out of every five millennial and Gen Z buyers are actually asking their parents for help in buying a home. But if you can't rely on the bank of mom and dad, then you're going to be basically renting forever. And so there are high barriers to entry in terms of getting into the residential home market and thus that wealth creation cycle. Affordability is one of them, but there are also other problems with real estate. Real estate is an illiquid asset. It basically takes a lot of time to buy or sell a house. There are high transaction costs from brokers. Home ownership is really an all or nothing type of proposition. You either historically have been able to buy an entire home or nothing at all. And you really can't partially exit from a home. There are also some systemic barriers to entry. I mean, we have to face the reality that there was racism here in the United States in terms of redlining. The disparity of people who have the ability to come up with a down payment versus those who have that capital available also perpetuates that sense that there aren't everybody who can actually get into that home ownership mode. But we think that there is an opportunity using crypto to be able to break this cycle. And so what we've done is created Tokenopoly as a way to transform real estate into a gamified experience that everyone can play and win. And essentially, here's how it works. At the heart of Tokenopoly is a price oracle. An oracle is simply a third-party data source that gives you estimates of the price of a house. Probably the best known price oracle is Zillow. People have heard of the Zestimate, but really there are also other data providers that provide the estimate of a house called an automated value model in a white label format. These AVMs are relied on by real estate companies and banks and insurance companies to provide their products, but we can use it as a reliable, trusted method to determine the worth of a house. So there are three players in Tokenopoly. First is the property minter. Someone can select any residential property in the United States and use our protocol to mint 10,000 digital tokens for that property and set up the smart contract infrastructure that would administer our protocol. Once those coins are minted, somebody can come along and stake their USDC or other type of crypto into one of these tokens. So basically, they would take 1.5 times the value of the house as determined by the oracle and put it into our protocol as a asset that is underlying the property token. The stakers receive an yield and trading fees in return for providing that coin as collateral. And then we have the property token, which, as I said, is set, the price is set by the AVM. And as the AVM price goes up, the token value goes up. And as the AVM value goes down, the token value goes down. So this is not a meme coin, it's actually asset backed because, in theory, the token holder of the property has a claim against the collateral that's backing that token. But of course, we want token holders to buy and sell their tokens out on the open market, either through either through an exchange or an AMM that we've created, or eventually on central exchanges. So in this way, we've been able to provide people with exposure, price exposure, that is, to real estate value without actually owning the physical underlying house or actually having any claim on the deed of the house. So let me actually take a moment here and show you from our website how this works. So at the Tokenopoly website, you can put in the address of any house in the United States. For the purposes of our presentation here this morning, I'll just choose a property that's next door to me. And so I'll choose this one. And as you can see, it comes up with a view of the property. And the price or the estimate is set by that third party oracle. So in this case, this house has an estimated value of $744,000. And therefore, because there's 10,000 tokens, its price is $74.40, which is something that's quite affordable to most, if not all, people who hold crypto, because it's not hundreds of thousands of dollars. So if I was interested in this property and making this property available to other people within the Tokenopoly ecosystem, the first thing that I would do is I would mint this house. So I can basically create those smart contracts and make this property available to the Tokenopoly ecosystem. And so you can see here, I pressed on mint and up comes my MetaMask, and I can basically start the minting process of this property. Now, essentially in the background, what's going on here is we're taking the price from the Oracle and we're placing that number onto the blockchain through Link, and basically then being able to make sure that that price is immutable, Chainlink that is, and making sure that that price is immutable and visible to everyone on the blockchain so that there is no question of price manipulation that's going on here. But essentially, once that property finishes minting, it's available for staking as well as sort of buying the token. And in the interest of time, because the minting process takes a couple of minutes, I'll just go to a property that we've already minted. We'll just take 21 Pequot Drive. And here you can see that this property is already minted because there is a smart contract hash that's here that you can actually look it up on Ethereum or Etherscan and see that this contract actually exists. You could also look and see how much money has been staked and put into in terms of buying the tokens. So all this information is on the blockchain, immutable, visible for everyone to see. And so you don't have to trust Tokenopoly that these transactions have taken place. But once I've minted the property, I can then stake the property by buying one token, and it usually is at 1.5 times the $72. And so I can stake money as well as once it's staked, a token becomes available for trading. And that token, again, trades at the par value. So when the estimate of the value goes up to, let's say, 800,000, the token value goes up to 80. If it goes down to 700,000, the token value goes down to 70. And once again, in this way, the person who holds this property token is basically getting exposure to the price of 21 Pequot Drive as it goes up and down in value. Let me just go back to the presentation so we can talk about the rest of the Tokenopoly sort of value proposition. So the way that Tokenopoly, of course, is making money is in three ways. We're allowing people to mint, and hence we're taking a fee for that minting. We also have trading fees. So when someone trades a token through our AMM, we're charging a fee, usually about 3%, which is much less than the fee that you would pay to a broker for a similar house. And then we place the money that's staked into yield-bearing protocols, and we'll take money on the spread between what we're giving to the stakers and what that protocol is actually delivering in terms of fees. So we think that, there's tremendous market opportunity available for this type of protocol within the US real estate ecosystem. There are almost $36 trillion worth of US houses that are available. And the tokenized real estate market is something that's going to grow per industry predictions. And of course, the number of crypto users is also going to grow. And so crypto users are going to expand from simply investing in Bitcoin and Ethereum and currency speculation, and are going to want other types of real world assets to tokenize and then place their money in. And we think that creating these synthetic tokens is one type of asset class that people are going to use. As we think about, who are going to be the first users of Tokenopoly and our acquisition pathways, we truly believe that crypto degens, those who are familiar with crypto and DeFi, are going to be the first people that are going to come and use Tokenopoly. Certainly, if you're a real estate enthusiast, you're also going to want to come and use Tokenopoly. You can imagine a world where there's YouTube Property Brothers types of videos, and instead of just watching the house being renovated, you could actually buy a token for that house and watch and have a financial stake in how that property gets renovated and whether the price of that property goes up and down as a result of that renovation. Now, of course, there are other real estate tokenization platforms that are out there, things like Lofty or Realty. Now, most of these other platforms, what they're doing is they're actually buying physical homes, putting it into some sort of LLC, and then having to manage that home and collect the rents. I think that actually presents barriers because you have to have the capital needed to go out and buy the home. You also have to have the ability to manage the home and all the leaky toilets and sinks that go along with it. And having a synthetic or virtualized way of still being able to speculate on the price of a home, but having none of the overhead for managing it, I think is a winning proposition for a lot of people. And so as we think about sort of how we're going to go to market with Tokenopoly and scale what we're doing, we're just about to have a market test of Tokenopoly where we're going to pre-mint and pre-stake a number of properties and make them available to the general public to be able to buy and sell and trade. We've been going out to different conferences over the summer, permissionless and consensus, to talk about and evangelize and socialize Tokenopoly amongst the crypto set, and getting some feedback and incorporating that into our product. And so now we're just about ready to launch and make the product available to our users. Um, and part of this involves, building community. And so we've reached that point where we've got about 1,100 folks that are on our Twitter feed or X feed. And over the next quarter, we're going to be looking at increasing that number. Ultimately, we look to go to mainnet, both in staking, minting, as well as trading tokens by Q4 of this year. So we are in the midst of raising $2 million in seed funding. We're looking at $500,000 of pre-seed and then another $1.5 million in seed funding, so 2 million total, using both safe as well as safety methods of having both equity exposure for our investors as well as token exposure to our investors, And we'll use these funds to help us in our legal and regulatory compliance needs, as well as product development and then customer acquisition. So thanks for your time this morning. I'm happy to answer any questions that may have come through the chat room and fire away.
Thank you. I feel confident I will have a house one day. Do we have, oh, we do have questions in the chat. Okay, keep adding them. All right, starting off with Marcus. Who audits the smart contracts? The
So
smart
we're
contract auditor? Go ahead.
Absolutely. We want to make sure that our contracts are secure and cannot be exploited by bad actors. And so part of our use of funds in terms of compliance is to be able to hire auditors who will review the programming of our smart contracts and making sure that they are secure.
Thank you. What chain are you building on? Also from Marcus.
We're building on Ethereum to begin with, but we have begun discussions with other layer two providers for grants so that we can go cross-chain either within the Ethereum ecosystem or onto Bitcoin as well through some other protocols that are offering yield in Bitcoin.
Mm, okay. And from Dwayne, how can the Bit Angels community participate in the testing round?
Sure. So you can go to our website at tokenopoly.io. You'll see a little video there which explains some of what I've told you this morning, but there's also a sign up for a wait list. And if you simply put your name and your email address into the wait list, when we're ready to test the buying of the token, we'll be reaching out to folks. And of course, if you like what you're hearing, we'd of course encourage you to contact us because we are doing the round as well.
Okay, great. Oh, the chat is firing up. Okay, next from Albert. How do you link ownership between the token and the real estate property?
That's a great question. There is actually no ownership of the property itself. So we're not making any claims that the token holders are owning the property or having any deed rights to the property. We're simply using the property as a public marker in its valuation to say, here's a property, it's been valued at this amount, and we can measure when it goes up and when it goes down. And so that becomes the marker of how much the property is worth. We're also going to be looking at combining properties to create a neighborhood token. So you could get a representative token of, let's say, Brooklyn versus Detroit, and be able to not only invest in a single home, but invest in a neighborhood or a geography.
Amazing. And that kind of leads into Marlon's second half because he also asked who owns the properties and are they only acquired after the full 10K is minted? What happens if you acquire tokens but the property sale doesn't complete?
The owner of the property continues to own the property regardless of what happens in Tokenopoly. There are no ownership rights that are accrue to the buyer of the token, and that's laid out in the T's and C's that they'll be signing when they actually sort of buy or stake their token. So the owner continues to own the property. What was the second half of the question?
Um, what happens if you acquire tokens but the property sale doesn't complete for whatever reason?
Sure. So again, the property as it exists in the real world will be bought and sold between actual buyers, and that has no effect on the token holders, except for the fact that the underlying value of the property goes up and down, and that's as a token holder what you are, putting your bet on long or short. So what happens in the real world does not affect the ownership rights of the token holder or vice versa. But what happens in the real world in terms of the valuation of property certainly does affect the token holder.
I'll get to everyone's, but just following up with that one, Albert wanted to know. If there's no ownership in property, then could you clarify the main benefit users are getting?
The main benefit is price exposure. So what we are saying is that if you can't live in the property, which is what most people do when they buy something, they live in it, the utility value of the property. You're not renting the property, which is what I would call the income value of the property. The third benefit of ownership of a property is being able to accrue value in the property over time. But you don't need to live in it or actually own the property to accrue value. You can accrue value synthetically. And that's what we're providing here through Tokenopoly. We're providing the ability to synthetically place a bet on the property and then get value. So compare it to Kraken, for example, where they've begun to create synthetic versions of stocks. When you buy a stock on Kraken, you're not actually buying a stock, you're buying its synthetic doppelganger and following the price movement on that stock. That's essentially what we're doing here in Tokenopoly is synthetically creating the ability to follow the price movement on a piece of real estate or on a neighborhood.
And Marcus said it's very similar to parcel. I believe that's how it's pronounced, forecasting the price of the property.
In some ways. So the thing about Parcel was that first and foremost, it didn't let you do individualized property. So I think that there's a form of entertainment when you're looking at individual properties because you could, tokenize and or speculate on the house of your favorite sports, person or on some other celebrity, right? And so you can get affinity that way. The second sort of differentiator that I would make to Parcel is that if you look at Parcel's UI, it's very much built for the trader. Whereas I think that the success of Web3 will come from its adoption eventually by people that are just out there looking to invest. And those investors are not looking at sort of candlesticks, red or green, right? They need some other type of more Web2 accessible interface in order to actually do what they do. And so I think that both in terms of our UI, UX, as well as in terms of the core value proposition, we're a little bit different than Parcel.
Okay. And Dwayne is asking, are there any challenges to minting tokens for properties you own personally?
So I'll take the word challenge in two ways. One, the way that I would interpret the question is, are there any legal challenges? It turns out that there isn't. You don't have to own the actual property to be able to tokenize an instance of that property because once again, we're not providing any deed rights or deed claims to that property. It turns out that as we did our research, that when Zillow tried and has put a Zestimate on houses, there was a lot of litigation. People were offended when they said a house was worth X, either because of privacy concerns or because they thought that they had underestimated the house. And there was a lot of litigation that took place. All of that was in Zillow's favor. And similarly with Google Maps, when someone took a picture of your house and put it on Google Maps, some people, I should say, were offended at that as well. But again, the courts have ruled that there is no privacy right to the image of a house or to the fact that a house has a certain address. And the Zestimate is just considered an opinion. So we're using those two public artifacts to do what we're doing. And the second way that I would interpret the word challenge is around, could a homeowner mint their own token on Tokenopoly? And the answer is yes, absolutely. Because anyone can mint a token of any property on Tokenopoly. So indeed, it would be great if the homeowners themselves rushed to do it. And in fact, one of our go-to-market channels is going to homeowners and or real estate agents to say, just like you would, create a domain name of your own name, maybe you should create the token of your house on Tokenopoly so that the benefits of the minting fees accrue to you rather than someone else.
That just answered Rich's question, I believe. If it didn't, please follow up in the chat, Rich. Um, Another comment comparing it to Polymarket, but focused on real estate, question mark. What
Yeah,
would
I
you
think
say?
a polymarket is another sort of good comparator. Of course, with polymarket, you're betting on a definitive outcome in a binary way, right? Does something happen or not happen? And what's the split on a dollar for that, right? Whereas here, it's the whole price of a house going where you're saying going long or short. So you, just like a stock, if you think the stock of Google is going to go up, you don't know how much it's going to go up by, or you may have your target price, but you're not sort of buying it for a target price. You're just buying it because you think it's going to appreciate. Similarly, here, you're going to buy a token, or for that matter, short a token because you think that there's going to be price movement in either direction of that particular property or of that neighborhood.
All right, and I believe this is our last question. No, it's not. Can you speak to the AI onboarding?
Yeah, so that's a part that we haven't built yet, but we do think that, you'll have an AI real estate agent that will sort of be able to come in and provide a better onboarding experience, as well as suggestions based on your profile as to which houses or neighborhoods you might want to consider for placing your staking or for buying your token. So in that respect, AI can help us both in terms of the user journey as well as in selecting the property.
Amazing. Okay, and I believe this is the last question now from Rich. If you mint a house that is worth 1 million, who gets the token value of 150% or 1.5 million paid by others into the mint?
So a great question again, and let's just break it down and review the process again. There is someone who is the minter of that property. Basically, all properties are available for grabbing. Someone mints that property in order to underwrite the cost of creating the smart contracts, because there is a cost to us to be able to set up the link with Chainlink, to be able to set up the staking contract and the token contract. All of that costs gas. And so we're taking a fee that helps us underwrite that, of course, as well as paying a fee for the protocol. And so the minter is rewarded for doing that by getting a portion of the trading fees when the token trades. But that's sort of what they're doing. The staker is the entity or the person that is saying, I've got USDC. I've got to do something with my USDC to earn yield. Because, of course, according to the Genius Act, issuers of USDC aren't allowed to offer yield. So people have to take their USDC out from under their bed and put it into some yield bearing protocol. They might go to Aave or somewhere else. They might come to Tokenopoly because we can provide them on a risk adjusted basis a good value proposition. So the money, that 150% that backs up a token, gets put into the staking contract. That money belongs to the staker. Nobody else gets it, but they're providing it to the protocol to provide the asset backing of the token that is being issued, that has a, that's being backed by that. So to end, and then of course, the token itself trades or floats at the market value. So just to answer Rich's question, uh, the money, the 1.5 million in his example, that's paid by the stakers is put into the contract for their benefit, that they have a claim token on, so that if they wanted to either sell the token or unwrap the transaction, they're able to do that. So nobody actually gets the 1.5 except for the staker, him or herself.
Fantastic. And that is the end of our Q&A. Last question was to please share your contact info. So feel free to do that in the chat and we'll send it out as well. I know Toby added his earlier, so thank you for that. And thank you everyone for joining us today. We host these every 2 weeks, so be sure to join us again for more founder stories and chance to connect with the Bit Angels community. Until next time, I am B. Davies. Have a great day.
Thank you, everyone.